or wants to do, which is so stupid because his solution isn't that expensive. They wasted more money in other areas. He's not asking for a lot here. Rashford saying, if these children don't have a voice right now, and they'll have mine, blah blah blah. 5 consecutive MPs rebelled against the party by voting with Labour, including Miss Ansell, who has now stepped down as parliamentary private secretary at the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. And there's a lot of Conservative MPs who should be given a lot of questions about why they didn't back this motion, because they've wasted a lot more money. I might email Michael Ellis, but I don't know if I can be asked, because that guy, I just don't like him. So we're going to our next one. Remember when the Tories spent the last 10 years enacting policies that led to a 74% increase in food bank use, then asked people to live on 2/3 of their minimum wage during the biggest recession of our lifetime, then blame parents for not being able to feed their kids? This is way worse than 08 by the looks of things. And instead, we bailed out the banks 12 years ago, but we won't bail out people. And this is the point here, that they've enacted massive amounts of policies that have increased poverty hugely, to the point where food bank usage is up by 74%, and they now refuse to help people when they desperately need it the most. This is a campaign, this is a war waged on the poor by the Conservative Party. Let's not get twisted now, through enacting multiple different policies and forcing people to use food banks, essentially rely on charity rather than the government, which should be helping people, which should be increasing the minimum wage and should be looking at helping people out of poverty. But instead they don't do that because they don't care. They don't understand, a lot of them. And the ones that do, the ones that should know better, don't care because they've made it. They made it. There was that guy, Ben Bradley, he was talking about how his parents were on he was on free school meals because his parents were poor, and now he's calling parents that can't feed their kids irresponsible. Were your parents irresponsible having you, Ben Bradley? Absolute douche. But if you start going down that questioning, you run into their framing. So we've got these two here, Michael Ellis, that's my local MP, and Andrew Lua. These two voted against the scheme, scumbags. This is, child poverty rates in England at the moment. So depending on your methodology used, this is from Full Fact, they're pretty decent. So they talk about different, rates. So we'll look at this one here. They've got a nice graph here. And so if you look at child poverty under Labour, it's still extremely high. We're talking, Labour came into power 97. You can see it's dipping under Labour, and then it goes back up again, and then it rises. That's where the recession happens. But even before then, it was still going up steadily. 07-08 recession would be around here, so it makes sense. And then it goes down, steady decline, and then boom, this is just at the end of the coalition, it's gone up by a third of kids. This is probably goes up to 2017, 2018, 2018. A third of kids are living in poverty. Imagine what those rates are looking like now. And once I get those numbers, I'll release, I'll probably do a separate video on it. But look, working age poor people, pensioners, the poverty rates have gone up, and the Conservatives haven't helped people. This is pre-pandemic. They didn't help people. So what makes you think they're going to help people now? MPs earning between £77,000 and £150,000 have their meals subsidised in Parliament. So in 2018, subsidised food cost the taxpayer £4.4 million. So this is the total food. So a lot of workers, people that work in Westminster, get their food subsidised as well. But I think it'd make way more sense just to put these people on a proper wage, and therefore you wouldn't have to subsidise their meals. I'm talking about the people who, not MPs, anyone else who's in Westminster. But the massive amounts of money that's spent on subsidised meals and drinks and all that stuff, it's ridiculous and has to stop. These people they're in the top percentage. I think they're in the top 10% of earners. They should not have subsidised food. I don't care. Subsidised travel and subsidised food off the table. So we go on. New government COVID scheme to pay up to half of wages. So you want people, that are going to take massive pay cuts because of COVID, right? They're going to have their hours cut, and you think that doing a 50% scheme is going to help them. I know there's different things here. So, pay falls by 33% here under the job support scheme for Tier 3 businesses forced to close. The original furlough scheme that ends in November, so you took a 20% pay cut there, and the part-time job support scheme pay falls by 27%. So you're seeing massive pay cuts to workers because of all this stuff, and the more COVID rates rise, is the worse things become. And the fact is, the government haven't got their act together. They just haven't. What more can I tell you? Test and trace ain't working. It's a shambles. They spent over £12 billion on it. It's not working. So here, Cabinet Minister defends refusal to extend holiday scheme. So the government decision not to extend free school meals for children in England into half term has been defended by Cabinet Minister Brandon Lewis. Praised Marcus Rashford. See what I'm saying? Phenomenal campaign, but insisted providing help through councils is the right way to do it. And that money is gone, and we'll get to that towards the end of the video. But that money is gone. 2,000 paediatricians have signed a letter saying schools should follow Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland in providing vouchers for meals during the holidays. And so we have a Welsh government that's run by Labour, a Scottish government that's run by the SNP, and I'm not sure who runs Northern Ireland. It might be, the DUP, it might be the DUP, I'm not sure, but all these other governments for these other parts of the UK have decided to do free school meals. Which one didn't do it? England. Who do we have in charge? Conservatives. Are you surprised?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
You know, a lot of businesses and, you know, councils and stuff have stepped up to help people, but it's not enough. They shouldn't have to do this. No business should have to step in and help kids like this. The government should be doing this, and it's frustrating to say this. You know, shouts out Rashford. You know, he's a credit. He's a credit to Manchester. He's a credit to this country. He really is. We keep going. Ben Bradley. So this is a bit ahead. Let's see if we can find the initial tweet. This is the one. Yeah. So Ben Bradley. This is from him, right? He has one school in Mansfield. 75% of kids have a social worker. 25% of parents are illiterate. Their estate is in the centre of the area's crime. One kid lives in a crack den. Another in a brothel. That's two separate kids, right? Living in these places. There are kids that most need our help. Extending free school meals does not reach these kids. And then it puts, some other guy replied, £20 direct to a crack den and brothel really sounds like the way forward with this one. That's what free school meals vouchers effectively did in the summer. And so what this guy's saying is that the money that these two kids, this is the context he's given, right? That these two kids were given for their free school meals went to a brothel and a crack den. Okay, and now he's saying that this is out of context. But this is what Dr. Khan points out, that if Ben Bradley knew of these kids that are living in these conditions, why has he not phoned the police? These are his constituents. I don't care if they're not voting age. These are his constituents. He should have talked to the police and said, "Look, there's a kid who lives in a crack den. You need to go there and arrest the drug dealers and get this kid put in, with other family members who are decent, or maybe he has to be put in the care system. This kid has to be put in the care system." But Ben Bradley, an absolute tool, weapons grade ignorance here. And so Ben Bradley goes back to say, to explain, I shared a tweet citing a very specific example of the most chaotic and problematic childhood, such as living in a household that is dealing drugs or where prostitution takes place. So he's listed two things there. And then he says a specific example. So it should be examples. So English is not his strong suit either, Ben. Is it? Is it, Ben? So obviously there is a very specific scenario. So the whole discussion is very specific to it. I was clearly not talking generally about families on free school meals. I was saying that kids in this scenario need a huge amount of targeted and holistic help. So why has your government cut the money to help these kids, Ben? What are you going to do to help these kids, Ben? And that we need to look beyond free school meals to help the most vulnerable children. Obviously, those systems in place, social care is there in place, but we're talking about helping the vast majority of poorer kids whose families do actually work. This is a clown. This is a clown like Ben. He's so stupid that he's done this. What these Conservative MPs should have done is vote down the bill and just shut up. Just shut up and don't say anything. Don't do press. Don't say anything. Talk about something else. These guys are absolute monumental buffoons. And so, we've got some, money being wasted here. Deloitte and McKinsey, among other management consultants that have landed contracts worth £180 million to carry out strategic programme management on end of Brexit transition period. Surely that's why we have civil servants, and £180 million would more than cover free school meals over recess. So there's money being wasted there. Annalise Dodds, this is the shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. How 150 million, how much government wasted on unusable face masks. 157 million, that's how much it costs to fund free school meals over Christmas and Easter. Okay, so the money's there. They can't say it's a financial issue, and they're refusing to do this because they say they've put money aside in other areas to deal with this. This is the worst game of politics I've ever seen in my life. Genuinely, we'll get to that at the end. So here we've got what's his name, Nadeem Zahawi, being an absolute moron, saying that what matters more is not the kids being fed, it's the activities.
The best way to deal with this is through both local government and through the welfare system, and that's the right thing to do. We've run a pilot costing £9 million this summer, feeding 50,000 children. We'll take the learning from that, and it's not just about the food. As I said, I spoke to Carol Shanahan in Stoke-on-Trent. She tells me that in wards where families want to keep their children safe during those activities, they also appreciate the food, but more important than the food to them was the activities for their children to be able to catch up. I'm not sure that's true.
So he's saying there that what matters more is not feeding the kids, the activities. This guy, he's full of crap. So we'll go to our next one. This is the Brexit Party, and Nigel Farage also put out a tweet saying that how could the government fund the Eat Out to Help Out scheme but not help out kids? It don't make sense. The government was happy to help adults to eat out in August, but has now let the poorest children go hungry during the school holidays. Does it seem fair to you? And you've got a pretty nice graphic to be fair. You've got a lobster here on this side, and you've got a smiley. I remember eating these in primary school on this side. And it's true. It's true, you know, the government funding, you know, they're making sure that to say it's not a financial issue that they're not funding the scheme because they know they'll get hammered. So what they're saying is, oh, we put the money aside elsewhere. You know, it's just, this is monumental. Like, if we're talking just politics here, this is very stupid. And if we're talking about from a moral perspective, not helping out children is the height of irresponsibility for any government, because you can say it's the parents' fault for having kids and whatever, yeah, but these kids are the ones that suffer from this, right? It's not their fault they were born into a world where their parents were, you know, according to you, irresponsible. Okay, it's not their fault that the country currently doesn't pay living wage instead of a minimum wage. It's not their fault, is it? And circumstances do change. People's circumstances, you could lose your job, your partner leaves you, your partner dies, anything could happen, and your circumstances could change very easily. You're far more likely to be homeless than you are to be a millionaire or a billionaire. Let's not get twisted now. Genuinely so stupid, some of the takes that I've seen from this. You know, this guy here, you know, I also want no child to go hungry, but you're not going to fund the scheme, are you? That's Matt Hancock. You know, this is James Felton again. Your Tories complaining about being called scum. He goes, I can excuse and endorse starving kids at Christmas, but I draw the line at an accurate description of what that makes me. Scum. That's what makes you scum. There's the Ben Bradley thing again. This is another one, so let's get into this one. So I'm delighted, this is Celine Saxby, she's an MP. I'm delighted our local businesses have bounced back so much after lockdown. They are able to give away food for free, and I very much hope they will not be seeking any further government support. And there she's saying, you know, the portrayal of my recent comments on social media are taken out of context. There's the full context. If anyone wants to read this, I'll full screen it. Pause it here, read that, and then this is a statement, you can pause it there and read that. But she's saying it was taken out of context. There's the full context. That's the full statement. And so it's just, they don't understand what out of context means, or they're just full of crap. And here we've got another one. This makes me laugh. So this is Mark Jenkinson getting involved here. So here, Angela, this is about the Ben Bradley screenshot about him, you know, the brothel thing and the crack house thing. He's either being disingenuous or hasn't a clue what goes on in her constituency. I hope for the sake of her constituents it's the former. I know my constituency that as a tiny minority, it might be food parcels are traded for drugs. And this is the you know, secret barrister here. In over a decade of prosecuting and defending criminal cases involving the supply of drugs, from street dealing to multi-million-pound importations, I've yet to encounter the phenomenon of a drug dealer who accepts food parcels in lieu of cash. It's just madness. You know, they're saying that we shouldn't do food parcels because people will trade them for drugs. This is Boris Johnson refusing to move on the school vouchers thing. This article's from yesterday. And you know, he still refused to budge, I think, even today. So this is the £63 million thing. It should have a date. There's 11th of June this money was given. We're in October now, so you got what? June, July, August, September, and October. When the end of October, that's 5 months that money was meant to last, and the money's gone. 5 months they expected this money to last, and that's why they hit you with the big figure, right? 63 million. But when you divide that up amongst the councils over the 5 months, it's not gonna be a lot of money. And so here, you know, we go to another article, the free school meals thing. Councils say the £63 million hardship funding from the government has already been spent. Even Conservative councillors said the money they received from central government is not enough to cover the costs of providing holiday meals. Hardship funds allocated by the government to local authorities have already been spent, councils have said, with town halls having to pay for holiday free school meals out of their own stressed budgets. So the money's gone. So when they tout this £63 million figure, hardship figure, that money's gone. It's finished. So they can't keep touting it, and the media have to do better. You have to do better and point out these falsehoods. Okay, any of these journalists who are retweeting this stuff, right, you should quit your job and get a job as a Conservative Party spokesperson, because you're not a journalist, you're a fraud. And this is Marcus Rashford tweeting out the same thing, or not about the journalism thing, but about the 63 million. I'm hearing that the 63 million pound funding provided to local councils meant to be spent by the 2nd of October. That's the start of this month. If that's true, I don't know if that is, then the effort local councils are putting in finding the funding for food provisions over half term is just incredible. And you know what? I agree with them. Those councils that have done so have done the right thing here, because that money, the money that they were given, is gone. I don't know if it had to be spent by the 2nd of October, but what we know is the money's gone. And you know what these Conservative MPs remind me of? They remind me of Senator Armstrong, because they want a world where just the rich and the strong survive, and they don't understand what it's like to be poor or hungry. So if we listen to my boy Ryden here, not when you're purging the weak, right? That's essentially what they're doing. They're purging the poor, because they allow poor people to die, suffer. You know, could you imagine a world where, you know, kids were given the proper funding in their schools, proper meals and things like that, what they could go on to achieve, rather than, you know, them, you know, wondering, you know, are they going to be able to eat today? If their parents, you know, could put more time and effort into, you know, had the ability to, you know, spend more time with their kids, you know, instead of having to work constantly for a low wage, and constantly have money troubles, the amount of extra care they could give to their kids and how much that would help them in the long term. But that's what these Conservative MPs are like. A lot of them are.
What do you know about being weak? You weren't born poor. You've never been hungry. You don't know what it's like to fight and steal.
Because they don't know what it's like to have to fight to survive. They don't understand that. I don't fully understand that either, because my life wasn't that hard compared to a lot of other people's lives. I haven't had to skip meals. My parents always did their best. My dad, we'll talk about him another time. But my mum, she put in a lot of effort just to make sure we could, all my brothers can go university and stuff like that. And just my sister left to go university if that's what she wants to do. My older brother graduated. I graduated. My younger brother, he's going to graduate next year. She did her best to help us. So I can't imagine what it's like to live in a more stressed house than we did. That must have been so difficult for a lot of parents out there, especially now when they're not getting the help that they need. And I'm going to leave the video there. I know Rashford had a lot of problems growing up, when it came to just being able to eat, and that was under a Labour government. So what the Labour government have to do better here. If we go back to that full fact article, if I can find it, even under a Labour government here, poverty is still way too high. There shouldn't be children living in poverty, especially under a Labour government. I know obviously there was the recession during the 90s, but the Labour governments in future have to do a lot better. Have to do a lot better than this. And I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.